Miami in the 1990s wasn't just the neon lights of South Beach or the leftover white suits of the 80s. If you turned off the highway and headed north, everything changed. The air got thicker and the lights got dimmer. In these streets, two names carried more weight than the law: the John Does and Cloud 9. And while the rest of the world looked at Miami as a vacation paradise, neighbors and police were looking at it as a war zone.
Cups and soda cans mark the spots where the bullets fell Saturday night. So far, Glenn Robinson is the last man to die in an apparent battle over drug territory in Liberty City.
By January 1999, the feds were ready to pull the curtain back on a criminal organization that had turned the Magic City into a graveyard. The John Does started as a spin-off of a group named the Lynch Mob in the early 90s, a drug organization led by Mark Roundtree, who befriended and mentored a then 20-something Corey Smith. Charismatic and ruthless, Smith branched off, opening his own dope hole across the street from his mother's house in Liberty City, on Northwest 58th Street and 15th Avenue in 1994. By the mid-90s, the John Does had morphed into a violent but organized syndicate, and at the top sat Corey Smith. He structured the gang like a Fortune 500. Under him was second in command, LaTravis Galashaw. Then you had the lieutenants who served as managers and enforcers, overseeing each dope hole. They were made up of Eric Stokes, Julia Stevens, Antonio Godfrey, Herbert Daniels, Winston Harvey, the primary source for weed, and Chauncey Lockett, the coke supplier. Then there were the table men, Jeffrey Bullard and Daniel Dunstan, who cooked and packaged the coke for distribution, and William Austin and Kettrick Major, who packaged and transported marijuana. The structure was deliberate. A single hole could earn $2,500 a day, and on Friday nights they might collect $10,000.
I came up in an era where an avenue that ran from 62nd to 71st that had 6 or 7 cross streets. There was 4 drug holes on every corner, counter corner. So every cross street, there's 4 drug holes.
At their peak, the John Does moved 5 to 7 kilos of cocaine per week, generating tens of thousands of dollars. It was enough money for Smith to arm the John Does like a small militia, because in Liberty City, good management wasn't enough to control the streets. What was needed, the John Does had, and it was more than enough to keep the coroner busy. That was on full display on the morning of August 21st, 1995, outside a corner store on 14th Avenue and 61st Street. A known figure in the neighborhood by the name of Leon Hadley was gunned down as he stood outside the store. Hadley had previous run-ins with members of the John Doe gang, after Smith forced Hadley's younger brother Eric to shut down his dope house, which was around the corner from Smith's. Hadley confronted members of the John Doe gang about the situation, seemingly resolving it. But in those streets, nothing really settles. It just waits. A few days later, Hadley got into an altercation with Kevin Roll, a member of the John Does. Shortly after the fight, Roll reached for something heavier than fist and put a bullet in Hadley's leg. That should have been a warning. But later in the week, Hadley again approached members of the gang as they sat outside the 14th Avenue corner store, threatening retaliation once his leg healed. Not long after, men dressed in all black and ski mask hopped out a car, hitting Hadley 6 times, with the final one to the head leaving no doubt. After the murder of Hadley, Smith's reputation grew in the neighborhood. A little over a year later, Calvin Cook, one of Smith's childhood friends who he now supplied drugs to, refused to pay Smith back. Disrespected, Smith allegedly put a hit out on Cook, which was carried out on September 28, 1996. 3 members of the John Does caught Cook outside his house and fired multiple shots from a vehicle, hitting Cook. After Cook was injured, a passenger in the car hopped out, walking Cook down, firing several more shots. A little over a month later, Dominique Johnson, another rival dealer, had challenged Smith's crew. On November 7, 1996, a woman by the name of Cynthia Brown was on her porch when she witnessed 2 men with guns approach Johnson from behind. Johnson, sitting on a bench, headphones on, lost in his own world. He never saw them coming. Then gunfire. Johnson collapsed before he even knew what happened, and Cynthia Brown saw it all. She watched the shooters scatter and saw a face she felt was familiar. A name the streets already knew: Corey Smith. Cynthia Brown knew in Liberty City, being a witness isn't just dangerous, it's a death sentence waiting on a clock. For 3 months she stayed quiet, but something in her wouldn't let it go. She told police what she saw and that she was ready to testify. That one decision changed everything for her. Days before the trial, Cynthia Brown checked into a little Havana motel, room 24. Quiet and out the way. Maybe she thought distance would keep her safe. She was wrong. A maid found her dead in her room on July 23, 1997. Scheduled to testify, Brown's death forced prosecutors to drop a murder charge against Smith. By 1997, the FBI had opened an investigation and began intercepting the gang's phone calls. Agents built a case slowly, raiding drug holes and seizing cocaine, marijuana, and cash. They mapped the gang's hierarchy. Lieutenants and gunmen like Antonio Godfrey and Eric Stokes, tablemen such as Jeffrey Bullard, and watchouts like Charles Clark. Despite mounting pressure, the John Does continued to expand, their name becoming synonymous with unsolved murders. But in November 1998, federal agents arrested Corey Smith on unrelated federal charges. Liberty City suddenly felt a power vacuum. Anthony "Little Bo" Fail, a small but volatile 25-year-old enforcer for the John Does, took this as his chance.
Anthony Fail is described by police as a cold-blooded killer with no conscience, armed with a criminal rap sheet and at least one high-powered assault rifle. Fail, police say, is a fallen angel of the well-known gang, the John Does. After leaving that gang and creating his own several months ago, police say, Fail's girlfriend, Angel Bennett Wilson, was murdered as retaliation.
Fail believed he deserved his own crew and began stealing from John Doe drug holes and recruiting former allies. The feud quickly spiraled into a series of drive-by shootings. Within weeks, one woman was dead, a man was paralyzed, and another person lay in critical condition.
In this game here, life is cheap, but territory is very expensive. And so they don't care how many people they kill in order to secure that territory.
Detectives believed Fail shot 24-year-old Javon Jackson during a dispute over a woman. Jackson survived, but it marked the beginning of a pattern, one where personal conflicts spilled into gunfire. Then, surveillance cameras in Liberty City captured a man believed to be Fail, chasing another into Johnny's meat market, firing repeatedly as the victim ducked behind the counter. The intended target escaped, but an innocent bystander, 8-year-old Tahani Faraj, was struck and wounded under her arm. By December 1st, the violence hit closer to home. Fail's on and off girlfriend, Angel Bennett Wilson, was found murdered in the front seat of her Honda Accord, riddled with high-powered gunfire. A casualty of the feud between Fail and John Doe, Wilson was shot as she left Fail's stepbrother, James Harvey's house. Fail had urged her to leave after Harvey had spotted members of the John Doe gang circling the block. Investigators also linked him to a broader wave of violence connected to that feud. Even as bodies dropped and tensions escalated into full-blown turf war, one thing became clear to police. Anthony Fail wasn't just present in the chaos, he was at the center of it. Fail's crime spree left Liberty City residents living in terror. The morning after Christmas, 15-year-old Jarvis Hilbert was standing on his corner when a green Ford Expedition pulled up.
Detectives are still uncertain how 15-year-old Jarvis Hilbert fits into all this, but the small-time drug dealer was chased down by 4 ski-masked men with many assault rifles until they got him.
3 days after Jarvis's murder, Miami police drew a line in the sand. On December 28, 1998, Miami police launched Operation Draw the Line, an unprecedented show of force in Liberty City.
As of today, I'm announcing the beginning of Operation Draw the Line.
What you see here is a very vigorous, strong law enforcement machine. Put all these gang members in jail and make every effort to keep them there.
25 uniformed and undercover officers flooded Northwest 15th Avenue, searching cars and patting down anyone suspected of carrying a gun. The operation targeted Fail and anyone associated with the John Does. 8 days later, on January 5, 1999, federal agents got a tip that Fail was hiding in a Days Inn in West Palm Beach. FBI agents knocked down the motel door. Inside, Fail was watching the Fiesta Bowl and eating pizza. He surrendered without a fight. 2 days later, the U.S. Attorney's Office indicted 26 people, 15 from the John Does and 10 from another gang, Cloud 9. Authorities revealed that they had seized machine guns and hand grenades. The list of charges included murders, drug trafficking, and money laundering. At least 12 people were dead in the months leading up to the crackdown, and prosecutors were determined to make an example. Former lieutenants testified about codes and explained how managers counted money in shifts. Marijuana was collard greens. Cocaine was white shoes. Prosecutors presented hundreds of intercepted phone calls and the testimony of terrified residents. In October 1999, a federal jury convicted the last 6 members of the John Does on drug and firearms charges, including Corey Smith, Latravis Galashaw, Antonio Godfrey, Eric Stokes, Antonio Allen, and Kettrick Major. By summer of the next year, murder rates in Miami plummeted. The Miami Herald reported in May 2000 that the city's murder count was at its lowest in years, crediting the collapse of the John Doe gang for the reduction. In Liberty City alone, homicides fell 75%.
Well, Corey Smith has been in custody for more than 24 years, but he's not going free. He pled guilty to reduced murder charges today and got 30 years in state prison for that, but then has to finish a 60-year federal drug trafficking term, which could keep him in prison until around 2051. The son of one of his victims today blamed prosecutors' misconduct for what he called a miscarriage of justice.
Whether you pulled the trigger yourself or ordered it to be done, it was your organization that took Angel's life. You are responsible.